Hello, everybody. So I thought I'd just have a little nostalgia rant, because this came to me the other day, and I completely forgot it was a thing. The Games Workshop Summer Sale. Now, to those of you who are sort of new to the hobby, or just a little bit younger, say about 20 years ago, in the 90s, early 2000s, I think, as well, GW always used to have a summer sale. It was the clean out of the GW shops, you know? Basically, an opportunity for the manager to offload a bunch of stock. And I don't fully understand the economics of this. They certainly don't do it now. They destroy all old codexes, as I understand. Models themselves are sent back to HQ. But back in the day, you would have the shop on a Saturday at some point before the summer. And the summer was the big thing at GW. You know, that's where you'd have your global campaign. Or Saturdays themselves would always be the big battle, where you'd have 20, 30 people, a random mix of teenagers, children, and full-grown men playing games. And, you know, it was cool. It was really cool. I enjoyed it a lot. It was like the highlight of my week, you know. You'd get down, you catch the bus down to your local, well, I would anyway, down to my local store. I'd go in there. I was an annoying teenager now, looking back at it, an annoying child. But they humoured me. They humoured me. And this was in the days when GW used to facilitate a sort of a community. I don't like to use that word, but I guess that's what it was. And this is back in the day before the internet was sort of part of mainstream culture. This is like, you know, phones were rare. Mobile phones were rare. Cell phones for you Americans. And it was a different time. And I guess you still get that sort of thing at like sort of mom and pop shops, you know, independent sort of retailers, people who've got Magic the Gathering on sale, you know, comic shops, gaming shops, that sort of thing. Those things still exist, and there is still that sense there. But GW was the centre point of that, at least if you had a GW in your area. And pretty much if you lived near a major city, even to this day, you've got a Games Workshop there. And that's something you guys outside of England might not, or Britain or the UK, might not understand. Pretty much there's a Games Workshop within 5 or 10 miles of you at all times. Every town you go to. It's a little bit of a homage, in fact, because whenever you go away for a weekend or a week somewhere or whatever, I do find myself going towards the local Games Workshop. I might not go inside because I'm past that. I don't want to go into a Games Workshop and be told to buy stuff. I want to just look through the window, see what's in the window there. You know, obviously they have the painted models in there, stuff that they're sort of flogging, whatever the sort of local people, the local staff are doing. But the hobby sale was the big event, and it was something that I used to save up for. You know, I wouldn't buy anything for like a month or two before it. I would save all my money waiting for it, you know, because the manager would have sort of said to you, well, you know, and I think it's them being nice to you, and I think this is a different mentality, obviously, to what's there now, probably. And they would say, you know, the sale's coming up. You know what I mean? Like a wink and a nod to us poor lads. But you'd go there and there would be boxes of blisters, boxes of returned items, they were perfectly fine but returned or maybe missing a few parts or whatever, and they sold them on weight. Now this is something that one of the people who I know who have worked at GW said was one of the main perks of working at Games Workshop, is they would sell you things by weight. As a staff member, so you wouldn't pay the individual prices. Now obviously everything's inflated in price now, even above what it was then, but even back then it was considered expensive for Games Workshop or Citadel products. But you used to be able to buy it by weight, and that's what people used to do. And this is again before the time of eBay and stuff, so you know, it wasn't like people were buying them to sell them for a profit and that sort of thing. I think that's kind of why they stopped doing it, because people started doing that. But it was like the high point. You'd go in there and you'd be able to buy so many things. Old books as well. This was the great time to pick up those codexes that you never would have bought normally, because they were selling them for like £1 just to get rid of them. And it was a shame when it started to go away. And I remember how annoyed everybody was when they stopped doing it. They just stopped doing it. But it was every single year. And I say every single year, I probably went to about 5 of them. But I just remember the excitement of it. You'd go down early. You'd have to go early. So the shop would open up at, say, 10 o'clock. You'd wait outside in a queue with a bunch of the local nutters and weirdos and geeks, of which I was unfortunately one of these people. And you'd wait outside there and you'd have a chit chat about, the lore and about the game and all this weird stuff. And I don't think you get that now. I don't think there's that sense. Again, I don't like to use the word, but it is, I guess, sort of a community type thing. But it was just so exciting. You'd walk in there and then all the gaming tables would be covered in boxes of stuff, scenery, everything. Oh, it was so much fun. It was so great. I just got the memories of it. I mean, I've still got some, I went round to my mum's house recently, and in the shed, there was a box of stuff, and it had loads of weird stuff in there, just like cast-off stuff, old toys. I forgot that Bucky O'Hare existed somehow, and stuff was in there. But there was just loads of Warhammer stuff in there, old stuff, books, like I had the Orc Codex, the one that had Ghazghkull Thraka on the front, and all this other stuff in there. And it just brought that sort of childlike excitement back to me. And I'm not really one for that, really, the nostalgia thing. I find it a bit cringy for the most part. But it was I just remembered this, and it brought back a lot of memories, because I remember when I bought that, I even had an old catalogue in there. I don't know why I bought the old catalogue, but that was part of the thing. It was because you had this, because the internet wasn't there, in order to know what was in a model range, you'd have to go to a catalogue and look through there and see them laid out, what models they had and stuff. If you wanted to know what Imperial Guard models you could have and they weren't on the shelf, you could go through and then you could order them. And they called it the trolls, the mail order trolls back in the day. And you would ring them up and make an order and they'd send it through to you. I remember one of the best days ever was one of the best times ever. And it was so exciting. It was so exciting. They looked like they were trying to shift all their Praetorian models. Now, Praetorian models, Imperial Guard stuff, obviously, are a very rare type of Imperial Guardsman now, because they've been out of production for so long. If you look on eBay and stuff, you'll find them, but they're extortionate. And I had a chunky little army of them. For one, is because a friend of mine sold them to me. He had the box set, so I had the sort of core of it. And then they ended up doing a special offer where you could buy, for £20, right? For £20, you could buy a Praetorian Armoured Fist squad as a deal. And it was a whole squad with random sort of special weapons and heavy weapons in it. But it came with a Chimera as well. And the Chimera was painted blue, which was a good colour choice for the Praetorians, I have to say. And, it was £20. And I bought, as many of them as I could afford, It was on sale for about, 2 or 3 months. And I remember how gutted I was, because I saved up the money for the next one. I was like, yes, one more. And I rang up and said, yeah, we're not doing that deal anymore. We sold out. I was gutted. But this is where you get, your massive collection of random stuff, I had random Necron warrior squads and stuff like that, and it was only because of this sale thing that I managed to pick these things up. But it was the books and the lore, because once these things were done, they never reprinted anything. It was done, it was sold out, it was gone. And there was such a precious thing. It did genuinely feel like I imagine some kind of warlock in the Middle Ages would feel, being able to lay hands on some ancient tome of knowledge. It was like that. It was a beautiful thing. I think that was a lot of the appeal of GW, and that stuck with me. It's diminished slightly, obviously, because I've got older, and plus as well, just the immediacy with which you can pick up stuff. I can turn my phone on and get any book I want, basically. Particularly Black Library novels and stuff like that. But there was a mystique. There was a sense of the arcane about all these things. And the GW sales day was it was the high point of everybody's year, because everybody would be like, oh, well, now's the time I'm going to get that Beastman Minotaur, and now's the time I'm going to get those undead mummies, now's the time I'm going to get the Elector counts. I mean, I got all the Elector counts for probably £3 or £4. And again, it was a different time where the manager was kind of the sort of de facto leader of your sort of wargaming hobby local group. And the guy we had, he was a sound guy. I mean, I doubt he would know me now, but I spent a lot of time in that short store. And he was it's like a surrogate sort of father figure, I guess. I mean, I don't want to go that far, but he was definitely like a pal, like an uncle sort of thing, He was a sound guy, a guy called Steve. Lovely man. And, considering what an annoying little tosser I was, I know everybody else was, he had the patience of an angel. And he was just a cool dude. And I don't know what's happened to him. I heard he got married. A friend of mine knows a friend of his or something like that. And I wish the guy the best. But, you know, it was just such a lovely experience and a lovely time. And I think to what I could have been doing at that age, particularly with the sort of area I was from. And it's a great thing that I did get involved in this. And I'm so glad I did, because it's made me a different person than I probably would have been. I would have fallen into the other stuff that people my age and from my area and stuff were doing. But instead I sort of slipped into geek shit and reading stuff. And again, I've said this before on live streams and stuff. I do have to, you know, GW has been, it's really lame to me to even think this, but it is true. If it wasn't for reading GW stuff, for getting into this, for, you know, reading these war novels and these lore books, these codexes and stuff about this intergalactic warfare and all this, really, some of it very esoteric sort of stuff, you know, a lot of it jokey, some of it quite serious, grim dark, you know. I probably wouldn't be the person I am today, because that inspired me. Because you read a story and you have a chat with someone and they'll be like, well, this is kind of like inspired by World War II or World War One or you know, the Napoleonic Wars or something like that, or Alexander the Great and stuff like that. And you're just like, oh, well, I don't even know what that is. So then you have to go and read some actual history. And it is what spurred me to get into history majorly. And that's one of the things that I'm one of my big passions is history. And yeah, if it wasn't for getting into Games Workshop when I was younger, I wouldn't be where I am now with that, you know. And it's been such an enriching experience. So I got a lot to thank GW for in terms of that. But, you know, different times now, I think. I don't know. You know, I still got a lot of passion for the hobby and stuff. And like I say, I've been doing Lord of the Rings, but that feels separate from Warhammer and stuff at the moment. And I do like the lore. And again, I was a bit concerned. Like, there's some aspects of the new lore that I haven't got into. Just some things that feel off with me, and I don't like the direction of certain things. But you know, what can I do? On the whole, though, I think it's reasonable. Like, I don't think there's anything that's that bad. And for instance, the things like the Fabius Bile series, I think is some people may disagree, but most people I know who I've spoken to about this would agree that, you know, it's one of the standout sort of science fiction series ever, that Fabius Bile series. And, you know, a lot of other stuff has come out recently that was pretty decent, you know. I know not everybody's a fan of Belisarius Core, but I know, and I agree with you for all the reasons. But at the same time, I think that, like for instance, some of the authors like Guy Haley, Chris Wright, they're doing such good work of making things that should be a bit ropey, should be a bit bad, very good, or interesting or entertaining. And, you know, Belisarius Core is one of them. It's a flawed character completely. It's a joke. But Guy Haley's succeeded in making me enjoy it, you know, despite that he's overpowered and ridiculous in the universe. I enjoy it. But it all comes back down to, when I was a kid, having this place to go to take part in something that no one else knew was doing, to have conversations that I probably never would have had if it wasn't for this place, this company, this thing. And I've got a little bit nostalgic. I've got a little bit nostalgic about it, I guess. I guess it's maybe this time that we're all going through. You've got too much time to think on things, you know. But this is definitely one of the turning points in my life. Unfortunately, for good or ill, is getting into Warhammer, because it changed the direction of my life, or at least my my mentality, and it made me get interested in things that I probably wouldn't have. And maybe I would have. I've always been inclined that way, I guess, you know, towards history stuff and everything. I always enjoyed like war movies and things like that when I was younger, and, you know, like family members as well were kind of into that sort of thing as well, science fiction and stuff. So I probably would have stumbled in this direction anyway, but obviously I got into Warhammer, and that's what propelled me that way. So yeah, I don't know what this video is really. There was once the Games Workshop summer sale where you could make your dreams come true. Then it's gone now. And they don't do that anymore. So that's it really. Just a quick one, just a little bit of nostalgia around. I guess this is more for you people that are around my age, around the 30s. You probably remember this more. And yeah, different time, and a different mentality, I think, from GW as well. At least, well, maybe it was just that manager. I don't know, but I've spoken to other people and they've said similar things. You know, like Thursday night would be gaming night, and it did have a sense of community. And as people I know now, that you know, I wouldn't. I mean, one of my best friend, or one of my best friends, I wouldn't know the guy if it wasn't for this. You get me? Like, it's because of that we interacted and became friends. So, you know, these are all good things that I am grateful for, I guess you'd say. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know what I'm trying to say. The summer sale was great, and I've got a bunch of, you know, old shit in a shed at my mum's house. That I don't know. He's quite rare now. He's quite sought after, I guess. But it was a memory. It was a memory strike. You know, I saw it and I just got assailed by memories of my youth. Anyway, that's all I got to say today. Just a little one, just a little reminiscence. I'll see you later. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.